Kate, bless her heart, was the one that kind of said, hey, everybody, we got to wake up here.
Yeah.
And, there's nothing more important than us being healthy and making sure my parents stay healthy and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, yeah, she's got a point there. It won't matter if we have a movie if we all die.
Yeah. Hey, I'm a massive fan of yours. I've always been a huge fan of yours, and I love the character work that you've been doing lately. I actually interviewed you once before, and I mentioned that I love this movie you were in called Alex of Venice that I feel like not enough people saw. And I thought you were great in this. And I wanted to ask though, so I read somewhere that you guys were shooting this when COVID happened and that you had to wait 400 days before you could start it up again. And I was wondering, that seems like a really unique situation. If you could talk a bit about that, because it was kind of fascinating.
Yes, I recall. We were cooking along there, and we had kind of a good groove, I don't know if you've ever talk to anybody about what it's like to shoot a movie and then have to come back and do pick up for the scenes or shoot a new ending or something like that. It's curiously really hard to do.
Sure.
Because the energy and the kinetic energy of of your creativity of what you're doing is so in the moment. And so of that time that when you put a lot of time or 400 and some odd days between when you were in that moment and cooking along with that kinetic energy, and then to have to go back and capture that or because there's no capturing it. If you work from an honest place as an artist, as we're just channels for the greater truth. It's, you have to be in the moment. So we went back, picked up, and strangely enough, we were able to find, I would say 90% of what we were cooking on in the first place. And that's remarkable, because I've made movies where you had to go reshoot the ending, and you go back and you have the same costumes, the same shoes, everything, and they just don't fit. They don't feel right. They don't, it feels like you borrowed somebody else's hands,
I couldn't tell. I mean, I didn't want to read the press notes until after I saw the movie, because I don't want to go into any preconceived notions, and I watched the movie.
Like me.
Yeah, yeah. And I had no idea. I was really surprised. But I mean, I really enjoyed the movie. And I like
I
like the theme of imposter syndrome. I mean, I've kind of, I felt that in my life, and I think a lot of people have. But what really fascinated me about your character is when you cast somebody like Don Johnson in a role, you're a legend and you have charisma and confidence, I would say, right? I think of you, Miami Vice and all my movies that I grew up watching. But then the character, who outwardly seems like that, like a charismatic, confident guy, you peel away the layers and you realize that he's really not, right? He's kind of putting on a show, and everything about him seems like a put on, including like the clothes that he wears, and I thought that was fascinating. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about creating a character like that, because it felt very unique.
That character was kind of designed after a lot of people that I've known in my world, from Hunter Thompson to Johnny Depp to people that have made being a character out of their life. You know what I mean?
Like iconoclastic kind of, yeah.
Yeah, they have a style, they have a thing, and it's, and so this guy, I took the assumption that he was a big star in a little pond.
Sure.
And that he has this like he's on the tail end of having this brilliant seeming career and this brilliant seeming stuff, and of course, you know, the trappings of notoriety and fame and love affairs gone wrong and bad choices and all that stuff. He's on the backside of that. And so I had, luckily for me, I had a lot of colorful people in my life that I could draw from.
Well, yeah, Andres Thompson's pretty colorful, I would say. Yeah, I remember reading stories about you with like Gregg Allman as well. Like, I feel like that must have been, you know, you got some stories like that.
Gregg was just cool.
Yeah,
Gregg was just one of those guys that, you know, when he walked into a room, he was just cool.
Okay, so speaking of larger than life characters, though, you're with some amazing character actors in this movie. I got a big kick out of seeing Emmett Walsh in it because I love that guy. Every time I see him in something, he just makes me smile. He has this great face, you know.
Emmett Walsh and I have been in about I think we've been in like 3 or 4 movies together, and over the years.
Yeah.
Some I think the first time we worked together was like in the 70s or some shit, you know, in some television show or something like that. But he's a hilarious dude because when you come on the set, Emmett always gives you a $2 bill.
Really?
Yeah, he carries around a whole stack of $2 bills, and he'll, you know, he passes them out when he gets on the set. Sorry?
Just in case you need it? Like, that's so cool.
Yeah. Well, you know, the $2 bills are meant to be good luck, so he.
Oh, okay.
Kind of, yeah.
So Michael Shannon, you had worked together on Knives Out. Was he part of the appeal to you when you signed on to do this? Because you guys seemed like you had a nice
100%.
kind of chemistry. Yeah.
100%. We discovered on Knives Out that we enjoyed each other, and Michael, you know, I don't know if you've ever done an interview with Michael, but getting 2 words out of Michael is an enormous accomplishment.
Richard said, "What? No, Jesus, we did not get into it."
I'm just trying to get an accurate impression.
Yeah, I have spoken to him before, and he was actually super nice. But yeah, it was on the phone. It was kind of quick. Yeah.
Oh no, he's the nicest person. I have a little bit of a crush on Michael because he's just a great actor, and
one of a kind. Yeah,
one of a kind, and so interesting and authentic, and we just connected. We just connected. So when this came up, I wasn't sure whether he had suggested me or not. In fact, I've never asked him, but I almost said yes without even reading the script because I just like working with Michael a lot.
Well, you guys play well off each other, and it was a nice role for him, kind of like a nice change of pace. You're also, I gotta ask you this question because I'm gonna regret it if I don't. I do a series on Joblo called it Revisited, and we revisit a lot of great movies from the past. And one of yours that I always liked, I don't know how you feel about it, but I've always really liked this movie you did called Dead Bang. For one particular reason, because you have the best foot chase I've ever seen in a movie, and it has the most amazing ending where you throw up on the guy. Do you remember the scene, I assume?
I not only remember it, I designed the whole apparatus to make it work. Can
you tell me about that? I want to use that in a video for a thing I'm doing on Dead Bang, because I thought that was the best thing I'd ever seen. I couldn't believe it.
Okay.
As a kid.
Well, I love that whole chase sequence, and I love the ending where he throws up on the guy. And so I went to Frankenheimer and I said, you know, this only works if we have it in one shot. You know, like I finish off the chase, I'm on top of him, and you know, and up comes Rosemary, you know, and he said, yeah, but what are you gonna do? We've got a lot of things. So what I designed was, you know what a Hudson sprayer is?
No.
Exterminators use them. They
sure, yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Okay, so they have a plunger and they push out stuff, but you have to have a little hose. So what I did was is I made the stunt guys fill the canister full of pea soup and get the right consistency. And then I filled the canister and I ran it up my leg, and it's a clear canister, so they couldn't actually put the green goo in until I'd run through camera.
Oh wow!
Because we could rotor out the tube. So I run into the scene. So as I recall, unless he whacked it up, but as I recall, I run into the scene. I get on top of the guy. I'm about ready to punch him, and I put my. So what I did was I ran the tube up my leg, or down my arm, and had it in my hand with the tube hidden in my hand with the tube coming out like that.
Wow!
Can you see that?
Yeah.
And so I just put my hand over my mouth, and they hit the Hudson sprayer, and it went everywhere.
Wow! I would have never known. I would have never known. It was so that. Yeah. I mean, that moment is truly a classic. Yeah, the best.
And Frankenheimer was like, "Oh, I'm letting you do this. This is fucking crazy. It's never going to work."
Oh, it's the best scene in the movie, though.
Well, it was pretty good. You know, that movie had a real chance. The problem is that we made it during a writer's strike.
Oh yeah.
And the ending, we had always agreed that the ending needed some work. So the ending, I'm sorry to say, was an invention of mine. And
the shootout in the tunnel.
It was, yeah.
I liked it. I mean, I thought that was cool.
Well, thank you, because I kind of felt like that. I didn't like the way that it ultimately turned out, but the movie's a good movie.
Oh yeah, I revisit it all the time.
And I loved working with John Frankenheimer. Oh, yeah. He was a hoot, and he would tell me these stories about because we were both sober. Yeah. And he would tell me these stories about when he was drinking, and he was coming up, yeah, and Big like Star and everything, and like Burt Lancaster and all that shit, and he would tell me these stories how he said, I was one of those drunks that could be sitting there and talking to you and look seemingly absolutely perfect, spot on, never slurred, never. Yeah, it sounded like I knew precisely what I was talking about. He said, "This is when I knew I might have a drinking problem. Is when I was sitting there with some friends like Burt Bacharach or something like that, and I got up to leave, and they had a glass coffee table, big, huge glass coffee table, and he says." And I went face down and scattered that coffee table. He says, glass everywhere, blood. He says, that's what was my first clue that I thought maybe I have it.
Yeah.
Really?
He made great movies, though. I mean, so obviously he was able to. Yeah.
He was amazing. He was, John was fabulous. I came out of I was shooting Miami Vice at the time, so a lot of our stuff was great, wide and tight.
Yeah,
wide and tight. And John was using a wide lens, a short lens, and close.
Yeah,
and that was his thing. That was his as an auteur, that was sort of his signature bit, was being able to, like in Manchurian Candidate, all of those were shot with like a 25, and like short lenses. So you'd get a big head close up, and yet the background would be in focus, and it was very effective. He was very effective at using that.
Yeah, it's always interesting for me to watch, because I'm a big Miami Vice fan too. But it's interesting for me to watch that movie and to watch Miami Vice, because the styles are so different, right? Like the Dead Bang is really kind of gritty, where Miami Vice is very polished in like a signature way, right? I mean, of course, that's why we love the show. But then it was cool to see that other style too in a comedy. Okay, I gotta ask you one more question. You're working with this guy, Jeremy Saulnier, who I think is one of the best directors in the business on Rebel Ridge, right? You guys did that movie together, and I was just wondering how that, if you could tell me anything about it, because I'm really dying to see it. It sounds like an amazing movie.
I haven't talked to Jeremy.
Yeah.
I can tell you that I have a sense that it's going to be something really special.
Good.
He is a visionary.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to work with him. It was one of the hardest shoots that I've ever been on because of a physicality issue that I had at the time. I had a herniated disc, and it's an action movie.
Yeah, geez.
And so I went to work every day, did my work, and they looked after me pretty much, you know. But there are just some things that you can't rely on a stunt guy. You have to start it and you have to finish it, so that your mug is, so that you have the credibility of that you're doing it. And so every day I go to work, and every night I would come home and I had 2 physical therapists to come in and get me ready to go to work the next day. I kind of felt like LeBron.
Oh, man. I just got one more question about the movie. So the director, I was reading about it, he's like a photographer, right? And he's covered war zones. And you were talking about Frankenheimer, you're talking about big personalities. And I find it's rare that you get somebody as a director that's kind of lived a life like a guy like he did for your movie, for Little White Lie. And I was just wondering what it's like working with somebody like that, who brings that kind of life experience to the project, because I feel like he must be an interesting guy.
He is. He is a very interesting guy. I enjoyed the experience with Michael Marin a lot. You can see his journalistic background, photojournalism and stuff like that, and he, he's a remarkable fellow. He's an intellectual and super bright, and this was not easy. It wasn't an easy shoot, and like we discussed, it was at the beginning of COVID. I will never forget the day that Kate Hudson came in and said, I got to call SAG because we're, I can't, I have older parents, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, it hadn't even dawned on me. I was like, really? I said, we have a week left to go. Let's just finish. You know what I mean? Because nobody had in their mind, none of us had a clue about what this was.
And then 3 years later, we'd still be talking about it. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And so Kate, bless her heart, was the one that kind of said, hey, everybody, we got to wake up here.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more important than us being healthy and making sure my parents stay healthy and stuff like that. And I was like, oh yeah, she's got a point there. Won't matter if we have a movie if we all die.
Yeah. Well, and you guys put it back together, and I thought it turned out really well. So thank you very much for talking to me. I really enjoyed talking to you, and it was a real pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Chris, it's always a pleasure. You're so smart about movies, and makes it easy for us.
Oh, you're an idol to all of us, man. I talk to you all day. Hot Spot, another great movie.
Oh my God.
Take care, man.
Lots of stuff. Lots of big life.
Thanks, man. Thank you.